Nosey. Mr. Nosey liked to know about everything that was going on. He was always poking his nose into other people's business. Mr. Nosey was the sort of a person who, if they came upon a locked door, couldn't resist looking through the keyhole to see why the door had been locked. Mr. Nosey was the sort of a person who, if he found an opponent platter addressed to somebody else, would simply have to open it to find what was inside. Mr. Nosey was the sort of a person who, if he was sitting reading his paper on the train, would much rather read the paper on the person sitting next to him. Naturally, as you might well imagine, Mr. Nosey was not very popular. People did not like the way in which Mr. Nosey would peek and pry into their affairs. They did not like it at all, but that stopped Mr. Nosey peeking and prying. Did not. Mr. Nosey lived in a funny tall thin house in a place called Tiddletown. The people of Tiddletown decided that Mr. Nosey was become much too nosy, and so they held a meeting to discuss what to do without him. "We must find some way of stopping him being so nosy," said old Mr. Chips, the town carpenter. "That's right," said Miss Washer, who ran the Tiddletown laundry. "He needs to be taught a lesson." "If only we could think of the way to stop him poking his nose into everything," said Mr. Brush the painter, and then a small smile spread over his face. "Listen," he said. "Now, Winnie, I have a plan." All his friends gathered around to listen to his plan. The following morning, Mr. Nosey was out walking along Tiddletown High Street when he heard somebody whistling behind one of the closed doors. "I wonder what's going on here," he thought to himself, and tiptoeing up to the door, he quietly opened it and peeped in. Splash went a very wet paintbrush right on the end of Mr. Nosey's nose, covering with bright red paint. "Oh dear, I am sorry," said Mr. Brush, who was painting the inside of the door. Poor Mr. Nosey had to go straight home and try to remove the red paint, which was very difficult and rather painful. Mr. Brush chuckled to himself. The plan would win. The following day, Mr. Nosey was walking past the laundry when he heard somebody laughing on the other side of the wall. "I wonder what's going on here," he thought to himself, and standing on the tiptoe, he looked over the wall. Snap! Went the clothes peg right on the end of Miss Nosey's nose. "Oh dear, I am sorry," says Miss Washer, who was hanging up clothes on a washing line on the other side of the wall. Poor Miss Nosey removed the clothes peg. It went off down the street, feeling extremely sorry for himself and for his poor red nose. Miss Washer chuckles to herself. The plan has working. The next day, Miss Nosey was going past the fence when he heard hammering. "I wonder what's going on here," he thought to himself, and creeping very quietly to the end of the fence, he peeped around. Bang! Went the hammer right on the end of Miss Nosey's nose. "Oh dear, I am sorry," said old Mr. Chips, who was nailing up a loose plank in the fence. Poor Miss Nosey had to go home immediately and bandage his poor red nose. Miss Chip grinned Lord. Great. The plan was working very well indeed. The following day, Miss Nosey was walking in the woods when he heard somebody sawing wood. I wonder what's going on here, he thought to himself and creeped up behind the tree. He was just about to peer out from behind the tree when it suddenly ushers him, and if he did, something very nasty might happen to his nose, and so he went on his way without being nosy. Behind the tree, with a saw raised in his hand, stood Mr. Hurd the farmer. When he saw that Miss Nosey has gone on his way without being nosy, he laughed and laughed and laughed. The plan had worked. Mr. Hurd hurried into town to tell everybody. The plan really had worked, because after Miss Nosey stopped being noisy and soon became very good friends with everybody in Town. And that is the end of the story, except to say that if you are ever tempted to be as nosy as Miss Nosey used to be, you'd better accept one thing: the sore nose.